All righty, or Carrie, when you're ready, I think, Chief, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All set, then with that said, I will bring our meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence.
Had 23 police officers and 9 firefighters lost the line of duty since our last meeting.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, I think first things first, before we do anything, Chief Troutwine, you've got an oath to give.
Yes, we do. So, our newest board member, Helen McNeil, we're going to go ahead and swear her in for official business here. So I'm thinking, you could spot over here on this side.
Do we have a phone camera or a camera to take a picture?
Yes, Ed has a camera to
There
take
you go.
pictures.
More pictures.
So, welcome, and congratulations on your appointment. If you'd like to raise your right hand, I state your name,
I, Helen McNeil,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Arizona,
of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties of
discharge the duties of
Fire Board member
Fire Board member
of the Sedona Fire District,
of the Sedona Fire District,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
And now you're official.
Oh, I am duly sworn in.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's the reason we opened the board meeting, is that didn't do it.
Okay. So with that said, to our public that's out there, our newest board member, Helen McNeil, sitting to my left, replacement for Joy Michelle Moore that left us in July, I believe, end of June, July. And so, welcome aboard, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All righty. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a presentation of awards and staff recognition. Chief Troutwine.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chair and Board. So we'd like to recognize 2 of our employees this evening for 5 years of service. And I don't see them on the Zoom or in the room. Gabe has been here much longer than 5 years. Yes. At least it feels that way, right, Gabe? So, the first employee we'd like to recognize for 5 years of service is Nick Granata, and he came into employment with the district in 2016. We hired him as a firefighter EMT, and then in 2019 he certified as a paramedic. And Nick, when we looked through his file, he's had multiple thank you letters showing that he has outstanding customer service. He has an AS degree from Coconino Community College in fire science. He also has a BS degree from Northern Arizona University in emergency services management. So very well-educated firefighter there. And part of fire service experience here with the Sedona District, from 2013 to 2016, he was a forestry technician with the United States Forest Service. So we found the Forest Service employees are great ones to grab here in the fire district. Not only that experience with the forest, but they're very hardworking employees, which Nick has demonstrated that. Also, one of the community service areas that Nick's participated in is in 2017, he helped with the bird camp. He volunteered with that, with the logistics. And we do have a number of our employees that volunteer for that bird camp, and that's a very, very good community service cause. So with that, we'll congratulate Nick Renata on 5 years of service.
All right.
And then our next employee is Richard Wynn, and he also started in 2016 as a firefighter EMT here with the Sedona Fire District, and we certified him as paramedic in 2019. He's had, like Nick, he's had multiple letters of recognition in his file, which again, 5-year employee getting those 90 letters, that's impressive, and it's a good track record that both of these firefighters have started. So Richard, he received his certification in shipboard firefighting from the U.S. Navy. He also received his AS from Mesa Community College in emergency response and operation. He's been well involved with our community here with such organizations as Toys for Tot, our Honor Guard, and our Sedona Valley, Purdy Valley firefighter charities. And then he has quite a service record with the Navy from 2009 to 2013 in aviation maintenance administration. He has a number of decorations from the Navy that I want to note, and one was the Navy Marine Corps Achievement Medal. Another one was the Navy Good Conduct Medal. Also the National Defense Service Medal, a Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, a Sea Service Deployment Ribbon, and then also a Sharpshooter Pistol Ribbon.
Wow.
Well decorated, but both these two firefighter paramedics, we honor them at 5 years. They're solid employees, they're contributors, and they're really model employees. So we look forward to more subsequent years with them, and we congratulate them tonight.
All right. Any board members like to comment on any of the two gentlemen?
Well, I'd just like to make a comment. Shipboard fires are one of the most dangerous firefighting careers within the militaries. I mean, seriously, when you're down in confined spaces fighting fire, along with all of the hazardous materials and everything else, that is a tip of the hat to you.
Okay. Thank you. Chief, if on behalf of the fire board, if you could just extend congratulations to the two of them. I know at 5 years you're learning your job, and you're just about over that cusp where you think you got it nailed, and all of a sudden you come up to an incident that's totally you haven't seen before. But and then on another light, it's nice to know that I got seniority on at least 2 members being on this board. Yeah. So anyway, congratulations to the both of them. Okay. With that said, the next item on the agenda is executive session. We have 2 items that we'll be going into executive session for. Possible vote to go into executive session on personal matter pursuant to ARS 38-431-03A1 in regards to the fire chief's evaluation and legal advice pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3 and instructions to the attorney pursuant to ARS 38-431-03A4 regarding the same. The second item is possible vote to go into executive session on personal matters pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1, it looks like, in regards to the governing board policies and legal advice pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3 and instructions to the attorney pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A4 regarding the same. I'll make the motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second? Second? Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are now in, any objections? We are now in executive session. Okay, where would you like to go?
Gary?
Upstairs?
We're going vertical.
She's rude.
Thank you. As a result of executive session, I'd like to direct the board to continue as discussed in executive session with the fire chief's evaluation and to ensure that it is in the possession of staff by September the 9th. Does that have to be in the form of a motion for that? No, okay. The second item, the governing board policies as a result of executive session as it relates to the governing board vacancy, policy 2015-01. The board would like to direct the fire chief to make those modifications as we identified in our, executive session, under selection considerations, and have them for the agenda for next month.
So moved.
So moved. Do I have any further discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that motion carries. So we will get that policy, updated. Okay, with that, said, the next item on our agenda is, public forum. Do we have any speakers from the public?
We do not.
We do not, okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and I will bring up the fact that we do have, regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes from July 20th and July 27th. We also have two resolutions that are basically updating the signees' names on the, county accounts and bank accounts. And also we have two members of the Fire Code Board of Appeals that are re-upping their membership on that board. So with that said, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So motioned.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, the consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is our financial report and updates. Finance Director Gabe Boldra had another appointment, so in his place, we have Sarah. And Sarah, I did not get your last name. Simonson. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Share my screen. Sorry, maybe it's not working.
It's just low to pull up. One moment.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, it'll go into presentation mode in just a minute. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sarah Simonton. I'm with the James Vincent Group. As Mr. Chairman mentioned, Gabe had a previous appointment, and so I will get me this tonight.
Okay.
I've been with James Vincent Group for almost 3 years, so, and helping with Sedona Fire, so I'm excited to present to you tonight. In your packet, you will have your July 2021 financials. Quickly, we'll go over where we ended the month. This is the first month of the fiscal year, so we will be talking specifically about July, which that will also be year-to-date. So normally, we'll see 2 slides, one for the month and one for year-to-date, but because this is the first month, we'll just show the one. It's slow, so do you want me to wait for it to...
I can start generally discussing it, it'll catch up with you.
Okay, so total for July, 2021, our total revenue was at $737,961, which was up over budget by $262,000. Tax levy revenue came in at $89,721, which was slightly down from our budget. When we develop that budget, we look at 3-year average of how we collect that tax levy revenue, and that's what we plan. So that's not an issue of concern or anything, it's just how we do it based off of history, so we're slightly down off the history of what we've collected. Non-tax levy revenue came in at $648,241, which is up over budget by $289,000. The predominant driver of those were related to our AMBO. Ambulance came in at $424,000, which was up $249,000 from our budget. So we are starting to see a slight recovery from the collections on that ambulance revenue. It's moving over to the AMB. Wildland also was making up that driver, so Wildland came in at $109,805, which was up over budget by $42,000. Expenses for the month came in at $2,073,994, which was up about $80,000 from budget. The predominant driver of this was in our personnel, which was 100% related to the Wildland deployment wages. So as we send people out on Wildland, we collect revenue, but also our wages increase. as well. So that was 103,000 up, on personnel. And then building and land came in at 19,000, which was under by $14,000. Vehicles and equipment came in at 32 or 33,000, which was also under by 18. And then commercial came in at 131,000, which was right on budget. And communications, not commercial. And then managerial came in at $98,772, which was slightly under budget. Moving on to the next slide. Year-to-date expenses, we have spent about 12% of our budget for the fiscal year. If you think about that, it's a little bit higher than if you look at it from a linear perspective, but that's really in line with what we've seen over the last several years. We typically average about 13% of our budget spent in July, so this is really good tracking that we've continued to do. Part of the reason why it is up is just because of that wildland, so we have higher costs come in those first 3 months of the fiscal year because of supporting that wildlands percent. Moving on to the next slide, percentage of the expenses year to date. Personnel is at 86% of our budget, or of our spend. Communications is at 6%, and then operations and managerial is also both at 4%. And then finally, our cash position. We have our balance sheet right now. Cash is coming in at $11 million, slightly over $11 million, which is up $1.6 million from last year. And then our net assets coming in at just under $22 million, which is pretty close to what we had last year, about $400,000, and the liabilities are also down by $920,000 year over year. Chairman Soto, this is what we were talking about earlier, where that fund, the surplus funding that we have not spent, or that additional revenue, it's going to carry over here. So it's in your fund balance, and that's what's driving that increase year over year.
Okay. The reason why I brought that up, because this is the first month of the new fiscal year that we're approving, the July fiscal report. How does it reflect the carryover, the cash carryover from 2020 June into this year? So, and where would it show? And it looks like that you just said it's going to show in this particular graphic here. And my question on this then is, how do we, or should we be looking at being a little bit more aggressive in paying down that liability of $29 million, as opposed to keeping a large balance of cash on hand? Is that something that we look at, or you look at as the finance people, on how can we be as aggressive as we can to get that number down?
Definitely something we can take a look at. I will point out that part of that $29 million is really related to the PSPRS.
Right.
So a large portion of that is related to the PSPRS, not necessarily debt services that we have on from Sedona Fire. So, but it's something that we can definitely take a look at and do some analytics around what that would look like as an outcome for over the next couple of years.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I can make a
Yes.
comment also. So, as Sarah was stating, the largest amount of that is our retirement liability.
Right.
So, I know we adopted a policy with the board, and we do have projections, and we are walking that down. Some of the challenges with that large liability, as PSPRS changes their perspective, is we could put a whole lot of cash into it, they change one little number, and all of a sudden that cash ends up being zero, and we go the opposite way. So I think staff, JBG, we've done an excellent job of monitoring that and being very careful that their decisions don't impact that ability to pay it down over time and watch what they're doing. But what we don't want to do is, pay it all off, and then they turn around and change something, and we have the same amount of debt, but we have no cash now.
Right, right.
So it's a challenge, I know you know that, and I just wanted to iterate that we do carefully evaluate that, but we want to be careful because we don't really have the control over what their projections and planning is. We control ours. So it's a tough balance, but we are watching that part of it carefully, because that could swing either way overnight based on them saying, okay, we're going to amortize it over 20 years, not 30, or whatever they state.
And then secondly, in your review or your summary, you mentioned that ambulance revenue is just under $250,000 over budget now. Is that as a direct result as from utilizing our resources from the outside agency versus in-house?
I believe that it's a mixture of both. So it's moving over to AMB and then collecting that revenue, and doing it quickly, but also being able to support them from, what Ed's team's been able to do and support them here, and help that.
Right, and, you know, we watched that our budgeted revenue for ambulance billing start to, decrease over a several month period, because we're in that transition crossover.
Right.
Now that we've completely crossed over and AMB is doing all the billing, now they're able to go back and we are able to catch up. So that's why you'll see that big surge.
Mm-hmm.
And our expectation is it will flatten back out, but our hope too is longer term, we can improve that revenue. But what we need is, we finished the transition, we're, you know, catching up on the prior outstanding billing. So once we get there, then we'll start to see, okay, this is actually what we're bringing in.
Right.
And then we'll let it roll for a year, and then that'll adjust our 3-year projections when we do our budget in terms of how much revenue. And don't forget, with ambulance billing, with Wildland, we're very conservative in that revenue number in the budget. Because some part of that is unpredictable. You know, doing an assessed value, it's predictable because the county says, here's what, you know, the value of the property is. Wildland, we can have a year like last season and this season that is undocumented, how you know, the bad the season is. But same thing, EMS billing, we could have something as simple as part of the community gets to that age where they go to Medicare, and instead of realizing that full transport bill, it's what Medicare pays, and it's a lot less. So, again, we're conservative, and the hope will be when it'll flatten out, and then we'll get a real number there, and then hopefully as that moves through the next budget cycle, we'll be able to project more carefully.
Okay, good. Do you have any further questions, about the finance report from the board? Okay, with that said, then, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the July 2021 finance report. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, the July 2021 finance report, is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda is, Fire Chief's report. Chief Troutwine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. So, to start off, just looking at a couple summary slides. One is our year-to-date totals for responses. You can see in 2020 year-to-date, we had 2,534 responses. And in 2021 year-to-date now, there's 2,843 responses. So if you look, you know, we're up several hundred calls from last year. Look down at the bottom there, the rescues are up definitely in the EMS response. Those account for the large increase there. And if you look at the single standalone month of July, we slightly decreased in our call volume. And looking at the spread in terms of responses by station, we're trending about normal in terms of the distribution of calls across the fire district. So, having said that, I'd like to hand the microphone over to administration with our Director of Administrative Services, Heidi Robinson.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We'll jump right into the administrative report. So, news and events, we have received our responses to the RFP for our telecom assessment. We put out direct bid, we advertised it, received responses by the deadline. We've distributed those responses to the committee, and we will begin reviewing those, putting those into a review matrix so that we can rate them, and then we'll be ready to discuss probably by the next board meeting where we stand with either that review process, whether we're going to make an offer to one of those firms, or whether we're going to continue to search for somebody to fulfill those needs. So it was a fairly encompassing, widely encompassing project, from staffing to, utilization to equipment to possibilities to networking to radio to everything. So, we're really looking forward to reading those responses and finding out, how someone can help and assess what we're doing. So, going forward with that, we are actively in our 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony planning, getting closer to that date, as we're all aware. So we will, at this time, still planning in conjunction with the police department and some of our partnering agencies to have that event live. We do also have hopes of being able to live broadcast that, or at least record it, and then have it published to view later. We'll have more information once we're able to talk with the audiovisual firm who's going to help us with that project. So still planning that, looking forward to it, and we'll make announcements to the public when we have it all ready to go. Surplus spending in your packet, you do have the updated spreadsheet, which what we've talked about is going to be our last update on these projects. So this was the unspent funds we've just talked about in the finance report from fiscal year 2020 that we submitted requests to the board for projects that were either bumping up items in the capital plan or were items that we had been previously unable to attend to due to budget constraints. So we itemized our list, put in our projects, and have been updating you on how they've been going. We had some serious issues with supplies, with delivery, and with manufacturing. So some of our projects got severely delayed, others due to staffing had to be canceled. And so this update kind of reflects that. I've added another column into your spreadsheet from previous times that you may notice that we've got an expended and an encumbered now 2 columns instead of it being actual, which was just actual money spent. Now we're just calling it expended and encumbered. So some of these projects are ongoing. We're going to discontinue reporting on them monthly for you, but we're indicating in that column for the encumbered that is how much the balance is due on our quote for that project. So anything that's incomplete, in particular, our biggest item is in that building and improvement maintenance line. We have several of those projects that are still outstanding. We've written POs for them, we've booked it with our vendors, and now it's just waiting for those projects to complete. So anything else that's been moved around, you'll see those pieces in there partially or completely done. And at the bottom, it'll show you exactly where we stand insofar as what we were able to spend out of that surplus, and then any balance that we didn't have a project we could complete or identify in the time, we're going to go ahead and put that into that cash contingency, which ended up being about $77,000. So we came about as close as we could to really getting that $1 million spent on projects. So as we discussed with Gabe and I had a discussion on how to work through our next projects and complete these out, some overlap in the capital planning, and we're going to begin a deep dive in that capital plan in October for the coming fiscal year, where we're really going to identify what our capital plan projects are for the next 10 years and start moving things around based on what our cash at hand is, what this rollover is, and what projects we're actually able to complete due to this funding, and realign. So we'll have reports on those in the coming budget cycle for you. But at this time, this project's going to end reporting, and thank you again so much for your support of these projects. We accomplished a lot, and we really appreciate it. Our staffing updates, I'll leave all the great news about the fire inspector to our fire marshal. He can explain that process, but we did complete that recruitment and hire of a new fire inspector. Who's not new to us, just new to his position. Our firefighter recruitment continues. We have 4 candidates. We have 3 confirmed candidates and 1 that is still in the onboarding process, still going through background checks, but we're very excited about that, getting equipment, order for them, their PPE and uniforms, and we're really excited to be able to make those announcements very shortly. We're still planning to have our firefighter orientation in September. So looking for that, and we'll give you more information as we go along. We're still active in our TRT recruitment position. We've had some staffing problems with our evaluators for that interview process. So we put it on hold for a little bit, but we do have internal candidates for that position, and we look forward to completing that process. That's it for the updates, and I'll just go ahead and put in, usually I do a mental health moment every month, And it's not a mental health awareness that you're looking at there on your screen, but it is the National Immunization Awareness Month, for the month of August, going back to school. It has been a tradition that that is the case, and in this day and age and right now, it just certainly has a completely different meaning right now, which is, we really are the CDC, our Coconino County, Yavapai County Health Departments, the state health departments are all still really encouraging not only your annual immunizations, the regular ones we would do for youth, but also your COVID vaccine. So if you need information on where to access one, both of the counties have their lists on their board and publish them on Facebook, and we can help anyone who needs help finding where to get a vaccine, getting information if anybody has questions, and just putting that out there that that's our awareness. For us, it is also mental health, because it helps us continue to do our work and do our jobs and keep everyone safe and healthy, which is, of course, what we aim to do here as part of our mission. And with that, that is the end of my report. Any questions I will entertain at this time. Yes, Board
I'm curious on the 9/11.
Member?
Having been to numerous 9/11s before, rather quickly, what will I experience that's going to be different?
So the experience will be largely the same. We're just kind of maybe taking it up a notch. We are bringing in our partners, so where we've kept it pretty small and quiet and just Sedona Fire and a guest speaker from the city. This year, we're inviting our neighboring agencies to come bring a vehicle. We're going to have a static display of vehicles from within the district and our neighbors. We are arranging at this time a flyover of some kind of air apparatus, is yet to be determined. And we will have a lovely rendition of a couple of our songs to commemorate the occasion by a local group, what are they called? The Red Rock Capella Group. So we are looking forward to that. We will have pipes and drums instead of our smaller honor guard that we usually have, and be conducting a flag folding ceremony to go with part of the display that we have to honor the memory of that event 20 years ago, this coming September 11th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Makes me enthused to go see it. I think making it a broad public appeal like this, regional too, it'll really up the ante on people's interest in it. I've been there when it was crowded. It'll be triple crowded now.
Well, we hope that we do get some attendance. We will be putting whatever safety protocols would happen to be in place at that time in there, but we will make sure it is in fact outdoors, and so we'll make sure that we keep everything safe. We'll get some shade, we'll have some chairs, and we'll have some water available as well, depending on the temperature for sure.
Heidi, can you cover how we're getting the word out to the public? What means are we getting the word out?
The general way that we would publish any of our events that we're doing, and that we do our board meetings as well. So we have a constant contact list. That's an email-generated list. We'll post it on our Facebook page and our web page. The police department is our partner for this event, so they will also be communicating it out to their list. We'll put it on Nextdoor, so all of our residents who are members of that Nextdoor app will get a notice there. We will be doing a press release through our PIO. If you're not aware of that, John Davis, we'll be having you do that. And of course, we have sent out a special invitation to all the news media, and we'll be doing a reminder to them of not only the event, but covering it and advertising it for us as well. Yes.
I don't know that it's appropriate, but we have the president of the Chamber of Commerce sitting to my right. So the Chamber of Commerce will have I don't know, for the people who are visitors, who want to honor 9/11.
If you do your post on Facebook early enough so that we can pick it up and move it, and especially if your agenda, that all those things that you're talking, especially if you have a flyover, that makes it really like big city stuff. I'll make sure that our social media people really push it.
Thank you for
What
that.
day of the week is it, by the
So
way?
it is a Saturday, so this year, September 11th does fall on a Saturday. We'll be in the morning, starting, the ceremony itself will start around 9. We are asking that any members, any guests that are coming will come about 8:30 so that everyone's in place for that to begin. If we are able to secure that flyover, we will be doing a public announcement about that in advance so that people are aware of the noise, that might be happening, things like that. We'll be doing a gun salute, so that's gonna make some noise too. We wanna make sure that folks aren't alarmed by that. The Sedona Chamber of Commerce has always been such a great partner of ours and collaborates so well, making sure, because the fire district is a member of the chamber, and so making sure that they pick up on those things, getting it on the calendar, and helping make those announcements has always been such a delight. Thank you for your assistance with that.
Okey-doke.
Okay?
Any other questions? Good stuff. Chief?
Can I just add one thing on 9/11 too? For those who would not feel comfortable coming to the event, it will be recorded. And we're gonna try to make a attempt to even live stream it, but it will be recorded, and then we'll have that link available too for anyone in light of our environment now, if they wanna, view from there.
Okay, super.
Oh, I have one question.
Yes.
Excuse me, either Heidi or Chief. The past 9/11s that were recorded, do you go into the, fire district's website to obtain those, or where do you get those from?
That's a good question. I think that the only one that's been recorded was last year's, so the one that did not take place live was the 2020 event, and it was recorded. It should be in our Facebook archives, searchable there, and then it should also, I believe, will be on our webpage archives, and we'll make sure that we have a link to that. Thank you for asking.
I was actually asked that question, so that's why I'm forwarding.
Well, good. We like it when you get asked questions and we're able to answer them for you.
Super. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chief?
Thank you, Heidi. We'll go to operations with, Assistant Chief Paul, who is actually deployed again with his team. He's on the way up to Washington, so I don't know if I will go ahead with his report unless we are able to.
He is in a spot. He has notified me he's in a spot to communicate.
All right, you there?
I'm in a spot. Yes, sir. I'm here. Thank you very much.
There.
Yep, I'm in, Snowville, Utah, for those of you that are curious, en route to Chelan, Washington. So,
In there.
yeah, pretty country when it's not all smoky and on fire. So I'll start with the COVID-19 information. Right now in Yavapai County, the percent vaccinated is up to 46% from 43% the month before. And the percent vaccinated in Coconino County is at 73%. The rate of infection is increased in both counties. So basically what that means is that the number of people that each infected person gets sick is up. It's 1.1 is the R value now. So that means that for every one person that's sick, remember that gets 1.1 people sick. And what it also means is that we're not at the peak yet. We want to see that number drop and stay below 1. And then we can tell that we're at the peak of this current spike in infections that right now that the whole nation is experiencing. There's something worth noting is that within Sedona Fire, we've had a number of different people that have had household contacts, and we've treated those according to the guidance from both of the county health departments. And basically, the difference between vaccinated and unvaccinated is that if you're unvaccinated and you have a household contact, then you have to quarantine. You can't come to work. If you're vaccinated, you need to monitor symptoms. And so the reason for that is that the vaccine is a new study that just came out a couple days ago, still shows that it's the Moderna and the Pfizer over 90% effective at preventing severe or moderate disease. And if you combine that 90% effectiveness with the reduction in transmission that they're seeing with vaccinated, it makes it where if everybody within your bubble is vaccinated, that it makes the likelihood of transmitting it to someone else down to 2%. So that is compared with the what they call the secondary attack rate, which is if somebody in a household is sick, the likelihood of them spreading it to somebody else in that household that's unvaccinated is 53%. So I think that your comparison of 2 to 53% is probably the best way I could think of to illustrate why there's two different standards for how we treat those situations. The wildland seasonal outlook. Well, right now, you guys are under a flash flood watch, a warning actually, and their merry-go-round rock, the site up there got over 3/4 of an inch of rain in 15 minutes. So that was one of the many sites that just got hammered up the canyon and why you guys are under that flash flood watch. For the year, the water year starts October 1st, and I don't know why that is, but we've caught up with our very dry winter. So we're just slightly above average for the precipitation year to date for that water year from October 1st to October 1st. And that's for Flagstaff, which is the closest place that they measure that. We're 3/10 of an inch over the 17-inch average. And actually the areas below the rim are even doing slightly better. So just some gee-whizzy stuff about the fire season in the rest of the nation. Right now, it was a couple days ago actually, but there were 469 UTFs, which stands for unable to fill. So there's 469 different positions from logistics to finance to planning to operations that incidents needed people for, and they couldn't get. That was a new one-day record. On that same day, there was also 169 hotshot crew UTFs. So where there's an ask for a crew, and there's 169 of those requests that were not being met. Nationally, we're in what they call planning level 5 right now, which is the highest planning level. And it means that all incident management teams, like the one that myself and Todd Moran and Sean Foster are on, all of those requests are managed at the national level. This morning I was going to one fire, and then by this afternoon, we were reassigned to another fire. So there's only 16 type 1 teams in the nation. And right now, 14 of them are out and 2 of them are on mandatory days off. And it's 3 more days until the next team will be available. California had a request for a national type 1 team for an emerging incident on the El Dorado National Forest. They could not fill. And now they're working with CAL FIRE to see if they can get one of their teams. So while Arizona and New Mexico are looking really good, this is the worst it's ever been as far as the number of fires going on at the same time, the competition for resources, and it doesn't look, there's no end in sight. So that's my not so rosy wildland outlook on a grander scale. And my GIS update, I gotta access my other little note here, is the big thing that Emily's been working on is the map books. They have all the map books printed. They're starting to bind them together. And thanks to Michelle and Stephanie for helping with that. Another big project that Emily's been working on is creating a WUI map of potential areas that are within 1/8 of an inch of wildland that have over 30-degree slope to help out the fire marshal and see where those areas where slope and vegetation combined to really create a high hazard. Some of the other projects she's working on is the next generation 911. She's collaborating with the other Verde Valley users in the state 911 office and is adding the quick look map books and our pre-plan data to the active 911. So what that means is the active 911, what it looks like normally is just like a Google map, but on our high hazard occupancies, we have pictures of them, some taken with drones, some otherwise from different angles. And those pictures, exactly where the layouts of everything like the fire department connection, the riser rooms, all that kind of stuff, you can touch that and it will immediately take you to that information. So everyone that's responding has it available in real time, basically. And the other thing that Emily's working on is continuing to clean up the hydrant data and making sure that it's consistent across all of the platforms. Well, the 2 platforms, which are ESO and the active 911. And that's not very sexy, but super important to know where the hydrants are. And it's a lot of work to make sure that they are, that they're squared away across both of them. I'm going to do significant events last because I forgot to do it first. Next I was going to talk about Mr. Moats and the telecom activity. So they're continuing to work on the radio program build for the new mobile radios that are being put into service. And they're also working to program actual mobile radios that we already have. They're working on making sure that we get the right radios into the new Can-Ams that I'll let Ed talk about. And they're also working on different security and IT issues related to, the UKG security profile is one of them. And then making sure that basically the security across all of our platforms and the firewalls and everything are up to date. There's a bunch more stuff that they're working on. I mean, a ton more. And suffice it to say that telecom is always very, very busy, and they're essential to our ability to function. I'll tell you what, I don't want to shortchange them, because just saying a lot doesn't necessarily, I don't know, it doesn't make it for me. But here's a few of the things they're working on. NPR equipment for us to be able to train better, provide better training, troubleshooting some of the different ambulance modems on the Verizon ports, how we transfer information back and forth that wasn't working, updating the tough books that we use for emergency patient care reporting, and updating the websites with the new board member's name. So super important to make sure we're current on that, and working on telestaff and reporting issues to make sure that the reports and telestaff provide the information that the duty chiefs and everyone else that's concerned about staffing need. So a lot of work going on there, a lot of work going on in GIS as well. And lastly, talk about some of the significant incidents. There's basically three main categories that have kind of taken over as far as the significant incidents. We talked about two of them last month as well, and it's the UTV rollovers and backcountry calls. Those tend to be the ones that require the most manpower for the longest amount of time. And as we enjoy this nice summertime weather, the frequency of those calls has increased. There's a really nice letter that, I don't know if it made it into your packet, but it was from an individual who watched one of the rescues in West Fork and was completely impressed. It was actually, I take that back, it wasn't a letter, it was a response to one of the Facebook posts, but was completely impressed at the amount of gear that they guys carried, how quickly they were able to go in and out. And there's actually a picture with the packs that they had on circled, and explaining the weight of the packs, plus the person in the gurney, going through all the sand, and how impressed and just thankful they were for the fact that the Sedona Fire District had individuals that were willing to go out there and take on that kind of work. So the other thing that, the last thing I want to talk about the significant incidents is, the weather-related calls. There's been a lot more, more rock slides. I should say a lot more. There's been more rock slides up in the canyon and other areas, and there's been some of them, including one that occurred on Monday, that actually closed one of the lanes on 89 in Oak Creek Canyon for some time, while they removed, I'm not sure exactly how much it was. It was more than a dump truck load of sandstone that was blocking both lanes for some time, and they were able to get one lane open, and then they had to get heavy equipment in to move it because there's big boulders and everything. And if you haven't driven up the canyon in a while, if you look at the bar ditches, ADOT did a really good job before, actually mid-July, of cleaning all those out. And there's some of them right now that are full of not only just silt and other small debris, but large boulders. And while they're full, and that means they're going to have to do it again, I'm thankful for the fact that they took care of it, because it prevented those large boulders from getting out into the roadway. Some of them, bigger than a truck tire, and certain it prevented other accidents from occurring. That is the end of my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions the board may have. Board?
Chief Coyle, your report was pretty thorough, kind of taking any questions out that we may have for you, other than stay safe out there, and make sure somebody's always got your back, because you never know what's gonna happen.
Yes, sir. No, you're absolutely right. It's a year to make sure that we're being very deliberate about everything we do and where we put people. I absolutely agree. Thank you for that.
Okey-doke, with that said, thank you very much for your report. Chief Troutwine.
Thank you, Chief Coyle. Be careful, stay safe. So now we'll turn it over to Division Chief Davis with Community Risk Reduction.
Good afternoon, Chairman, board members.
You know, John, if you can, just speak up a little bit. I don't know if these things are working.
That's just, I was thinking the same thing. I'm not sure that they're not working.
It's got a green light, it's recording.
Of course.
They may be recording. We just don't get any.
Echo.
I wanted to touch on, what Heidi had brought up about our recruitment. We filled the fire inspector's position with, Kirk Rydell. Kirk has been a longtime employee. He's got over 20 years with us. 30 years, yeah. And, prior to his life as a full-time firefighter, he also worked for a couple of the water companies. So, he brings that knowledge with him to the job as far as hydrants and water systems that we deal with, and, he's a pleasure to have in there. He's shown a lot of interest. He's ready for a new challenge, and I think he's going to be a great fit. So, super excited to have Kirk Rydell in there. And unfortunately, he was a really good engineer too. So now they've got an engineer spot to fill. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about that Chief Coyle touched on was the project that Emily is working on with we're working on adopting a later version of the Wildland Urban Interface Code. Part of that is reassessing our Wildland Urban Interface. Right now, we have it's basically a one lot width around our outer perimeter. So our Wildland Urban Interface zone is not very deep. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility to say, hey, look, our entire fire district could be considered Wildland Urban Interface. What we are looking at right now is increasing that width from one lot to basically any lot that is within 660 feet of that current line, which is 1/8 of a mile. I think Chief Coyle said 1/8 of an inch, he meant 1/8 of a mile. So it would substantially increase that Wildland Urban Interface zone. So Emily she rocks. She is doing a great job, not only with the map books and everything else, but helping us identify those areas and lots that are within that 660 feet. As addition to, I said, hey, show me everything in the district where the slope is greater than 30%. So we've got that overlaid as well, so we can look at those areas and say, these areas are certainly high danger of wildfire impact. So, fantastic. The numbers in there, the plans reviews were down a little bit this month. I think that was probably just a matter of timing. You know, for the last, 3 months, I think we've been up over 80 plans reviews a month. And there was just some timing there when they came in that I think that was down, because this month I think they're right back up there where they were. We did have a couple of notable events. We did have a fatal fire investigation that we sent some of our people over to assist Verde Valley with. They had a fatal fire, so we're trying to do a lot more cooperative stuff as far as fire investigations go. You know, none of the fire departments in the Verde Valley have an excess of fire investigators. None of us have an excess of fires to investigate. You know, it's not like you look at some of these larger departments in California where they've got 6 guys and that's all they do is investigate fires because their areas are so big and they have so many fires. We don't get that many fires, so keeping your skills up on those and being involved in them helps. So we meet monthly, the fire marshals in the Verde Valley, and we're working on trying to do more cooperative things. Like, even if they don't need the help, just put out the information. Hey, I've got a fire. If you've got anybody that needs some experience, send them over and we'll investigate these, get them in on an investigation. So it helps maintain the skills. The other notable event was, community wildfire protection planning. There was a post on social media that asserted that not only does Sedona not have a wildfire protection plan, but the fire department doesn't even know anything about wildfire. They called the fire department and they questioned somebody here. Who that was, I don't know, but had they called my office or me, I would have told them as I did. I typically don't engage online, but I made it very clear that not only do we have a wildfire protection plan, we have two wildfire protection plans. There's the Yavapai Communities Wildfire Protection Plan that was just updated in February of 2020. It was over a year of work. Many fire departments in Yavapai County, many cities, all had representatives developing that plan. And then there's also the Greater Flagstaff Wildfire Protection Plan, which encompasses Flagstaff and the surrounding areas of Coconino County, including our portion of Sedona and Coconino County. So we're involved in both of those wildfire protection plans. They do exist. We are a part of them. I extended an invitation for those people. They were looking for more information. I extended an invitation to them to contact my office. At this point, they have not done so. But, so yeah, if you guys were getting any questions about wildfire protection planning, we are part of both of those plans. They do exist, and the links are online. I'd be more than happy to get you those links if you're interested. So that is the report, other than the fire marshal safety message. Great timing. Tonight I'm going to talk about lightning safety. Lightning strikes to humans don't happen often, but they still do happen. The best thing to do is move indoors. They recommend using the 30-30 rule. If you see a flash of lightning and then start counting and hear lightning within 30 seconds, you're close enough for that lightning from where it originated to send a tentacle out and get you. So if you can hear the thunder, they say when thunder roars, go indoors. If you can hear that thunder within 30 seconds of the lightning flash, you're within distance to be reached. You should go indoors, and you should remain indoors for 30 minutes until you no longer hear any thunder. Going indoors does not necessarily prevent a lightning injury. They do happen indoors. They're certainly more rare, but we all know electricity can travel through electrical lines, electrical wiring, steel water pipes, those sorts of things. So it's avoided to recommend those types of activities if you're in the middle of an active thunder and lightning storm. That's it. That's the end of my report. Happy to answer any questions if you have them.
I've got two questions.
Yes, sir.
All related to the same thing. This eighth of a mile, 660 feet, wildland urban interface thing. Why? And what does it do to the command and control for the fire service? And the second question, I guess the third question would be, what does it mean to the homeowner? Does that affect our insurance rates? Because now we're going to be included in a much greater area. How does this all come together?
Okay, so the wildland urban interface is not so much a tool that operations would use during a fire, but it helps us to say these areas are at higher risk. We're typically looking at the national forest lands, and we're surrounded by them. So I reached out to the National Forest Service, the State Department of Forestry and Fire Management, and asked them, how do you guys establish this? And they just basically said, well, we look at the areas that we deem to be at higher risk, and that's what we go with. And like I said, you could look at our district and say there's probably, when you look at the number of trees interspersed through houses, and I tell people, because I hear it constantly, people say, oh, I just want to keep my land natural like it is. Well, I've got news for you. That's not natural. Look at historic pictures of Sedona from 60 or 70 years ago. There's grasslands punctuated by the occasional tree. What we see out here today is not natural. It's what we've become accustomed to, but it is not natural by any stretch of the imagination. So, in trying to develop a reasonable wildland-urban interface, because when we develop the wildland-urban interface, we can use that for planning and essentially code enforcement as far as requiring homes be built to a certain level in accordance with the Wildland-Urban Interface Code to harden them against the effects of wildfire. So I came up with the idea for 660 feet, or 1/8 of a mile, going back to my days in Oregon. Any property that was within 1/8 of a mile of Forest Service land or managed forest lands if a fire broke out there, it was considered a threat to the forest. And that was what they used. They used 1/8 of a mile. So any rules that State Department of Forestry enacted as far as burning extended out 1/8 of a mile, even if they weren't in the State Department of Forestry's area, they fell under their jurisdiction because those were considered a threat to the forest. So that's what I've gone with and looked at, but certainly a one lot ring around the district is not adequate. You people are aware of how fast a wind-driven fire can move, and covering one lot's width is gonna happen several times over before our engines get there. So, we're looking at that.
Hey,
Of course,
John,
what's that?
I just wanted to, when you get done, I wanted to fill in a little bit of that too.
Absolutely. Anyway, this will all come to the board for approval, so these are just ideas that we're playing with right now, getting a look
Right.
at what it looks like on the map, and
Because I wasn't sure how it would affect a homeowner, in the event that, hey, I've just been drawn into this 1/8 of a mile, now are my insurance rates gonna go up because of that?
no, typically, the insurance companies use, they use a variety of different products to look at a home's, vulnerability to wildfire, and, that have nothing to do with our Wildland Urban Interface Code. There's a number of, I'm trying to remember the name of the product that one of the insurance companies uses, but it's put out by the same organization that does the ISO ratings.
Right.
So they look at distances and all that stuff, but it has no input from what we determine our Wildland Urban Interface is. That just goes as a tool for us to say, hey, you're in our defined Wildland Urban Interface. We require homes in this area to be built to the ignition-resistant 1 standard or the ignition-resistant 2 standard, or however, because you're in an elevated area since, due to your proximity to national forest land.
And that all takes place during the plan checking and all that sort of stuff.
That is correct.
Chief Coyle, do you have a comment?
I just wanted to add that, the Oregon Conflagration Act that created those standards that John was just talking about was Tillamook fires primarily. And then also what we learned from Los Alamos and where that standard is, they're on fire out into the vegetation, or from the vegetation that's on fire, go back into the homes. So it's not so much that the flaming front has to touch these houses to have them become, be at a higher risk to being ignited from the wildland fire. It's that they need to be within that spotting distance where they're gonna get showered with a lot of embers. So that's the reason why that distance exists.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And to that point, what Chief Coyle just mentioned, that's what a lot of people don't understand about the Wildland Urban Interface Code. It is not only trying to protect homes from fires that originate in the forest land and move into the developed area, but it is also aimed at, if a fire starts in a home, keeping it from spreading to the wildlands.
Gotcha.
So, it's kind of a two-pronged approach.
Sure. Chief Troutman, do you have any comment on that?
Sure, yes, and I wanted to add, when, Chief Davis came to me and we started the discussion about should we extend the WUI, further in to the district, there's a lot of complexity to that, you know, as we know from Chief Paul and Chief Davis. One of the challenges of the Sedona Fire District is, again, you know, we cover the city of Sedona, we're in parts of Coconino County, Yavapai County, we interface with the forest, the state, and everyone's pretty inconsistent on this issue. What is the wildland-urban interface? Because it could be impactful to building codes,
Sure.
et cetera. So, what we, you know, where we ground, and I said, no, John, when we look at all the preparation we do, like, Chief Davis mentioned the 2 wildland fire protection plans that we have participated in, that we are a part of, and they're robust plans. That's the tip of the iceberg of the preparation we do for wildland in the Sedona Fire District. This is another component. So, at this point, in the Southwest, as we look at trends, and we look at, like, this season, you know, that might become more a normal season. We call it one of the worst seasons ever, right? But maybe this, when we look back 20 years, it's gonna be a normal season. This is not the time for us to reduce fire codes related to wildland. This is actually the time for us to continue to increase it. So there is no issue, you know, at least from our professional perspective, of extending that, because this is about protecting the community, and protecting the community that is in the wildland area. So this is one small component of it. I said small, it's a big deal, and it gets complex on making that kind of decision. You know, and the research that Chief Davis did, I think, is exemplary, and we really look carefully at this. This isn't arbitrary, this isn't capricious, this is actually well thought out, and it's part of the big picture of, hey, how do we continue to improve our preparation for wildland? This is a component of that, but I want to iterate that there is a big picture here, and I'll tell you what, this fire district does, by and large, way more to prepare for wildland than most agencies in the Southwest. I'll put a general overhead, but from my exposure to even more significant wildland areas in Southern California, my career in those areas, this kind of preparation isn't done in a lot of those communities. So, hey, I think it's a good moment to pause and highlight, hey, we are prepared, and we are preparing, and it's a very robust and complex preparation. This isn't, we can't make a flippant decision and move on. You know, we have to carefully look at things and do research and pull data and look at the environment and have GIS maps and et cetera, so on and so forth. And we're doing that. Staff's doing that. Staff's doing an excellent job. So, are we there? Of course not. We're always going to try to improve, and this, in my opinion, is one of those areas of improvement. Now, let's extend it. Don't be surprised if we don't come back and say we're moving it further in, downstream, as we continue to adopt the current wildland urban interface code. So, but I think this is great. They're great steps. It's great situational awareness, and it's us trying to improve all that robust preparation that we really do day in, day out.
Well, I think the education just received from you, Chief Davis, and Chief Coyle, and yourself, Chief, is extremely helpful, and albeit brief, to say the least, because I'm sure there's a lot of work went into this. It's that very type of education that the public is probably dying and very thirsty for. So I look forward to seeing more of this coming out. Any other input?
No, I just, when you were talking about where you came from, I'm thinking of Sierra Madre. That's where it's a difficult area.
All righty, well, thank you very much, Chief Davis.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
That's all right, I just have a question
Absolutely.
for Chief Davis. First of all, thank you for jumping in. I saw the social media post, and I was glad that you jumped in and did that. My question to you about the community wildfire protection planning has to do with how widely that information is being promoted. What are we doing to help people understand? And I know we're just participating, you're just participating, but what is being done to let the community know about community wildfire protection planning?
Yeah, I know that when those were completed, they were announced through press releases and those sorts of things. And to be honest with you, the wildfire protection plan, I mean, there's a public education component of it as well. But mainly those are a tool for fire planners to be able to say, hey, look, we need to evaluate these areas. We need to perform more thinning or, prescription burnings in this area because this is a larger threat. It's also, one of the main goals is to promote wildland-urban interface codes and get more communities to adopt them. And, as far as I know, I think we're one of the only fire districts that currently have an adopted wildland-urban interface code. Very few others do. The county, even though it's the county's plan, has not adopted a wildland-urban interface code. In fact, I just had a discussion on the phone this afternoon with the county's planner, like, hey, we should start working on this to get something adopted throughout the county. I've had a similar conversation with the city, building official to, try to spur these conversations. And I recognize that this is not anything that's going to those issues are probably not gonna get solved in my tenure here, but at least if we can get the conversation started and get other fire districts and cities and counties to look at adopting codes, because I can only affect what happens in our fire district. And Yavapai County is huge. They've got a lot bigger wildfire problem than Little Sedona Fire District. And if I can get that conversation started and start getting these building officials and planners to start adopting or at least looking at wildland-urban interface codes, we can start to have an impact. But yeah, there is a public education component to those plans. How those are both county plans, so how vigorously they were promoted, I can't tell you. I don't know.
Well, you mentioned that there are links to it. Just
Correct.
to know, I'd be very interested in seeing the links, so thank you.
I will
That
make
was
sure that
great.
the board gets the links to both of those plans.
Thank you on that. And lastly, before I go back to Chief, you mentioned investigator / inspector. There's not enough to go around.
No.
Valley. And perhaps a task force formally,
Yeah.
so that when something does go down like that, where there's a need, they're all notified, show up if you can, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's another discussion that we've been having at the fire marshals meetings once a month, and, as much as I would like to see a formalized task force, at this point in time, I can kind of get them to buy off on an informal agreement, so, again, it's the baby steps.
Sure, baby steps.
Yeah.
Thank you. Chief?
Thank you, Chief Davis.
Of course.
Why don't we go to, Division Chief Mazulis, so he can brief us on our EMS fleet training progress.
Not exactly sure what's been going on. I've been on vacation. I joke. I'm very fortunate to work with a bunch of great people, and I did take a little break with my family, but while I was gone and while I've been back, a lot's gotten done. In our EMS activities and updates, been monitoring the uptick in the COVID cases in the Delta variant, and jumped on some PPE and some supplies earlier, so we're well prepared for quite a substantial increase in cases, and we'll have appropriate equipment for our folks, so I'm happy with that right now. We also have been working for the past few months and rolled out to our crews this past few weeks a new set of EMS protocols. It's basically our guiding document on how we treat patients, and that's in concert with our medical director who works for Northern Arizona Healthcare, is contracted with them. However, we've been pushing for years and finally got them to adopt the Central Arizona protocols, which are developed with a lot of input from the state. In the past, our protocols were whatever doc we had at NAH, he tweaked this and tweaked that, and constantly changing. And I'm confident that with these Central Arizona protocols, we align with surrounding agencies and with the State Department of Public Safety and a lot of the agencies around the state. And these protocols are the same, and they're driven by the state. So it's kind of that shared service mentality, and we're not at the whim of an individual to change protocols frequently. And the resources for these protocols are great, and it opens up some different treatment options for our guys. So I'm pretty excited about that. and, the implementation thus far is going really smoothly. We'll be going to the protocol September 1st. Other things in EMS are, you know, we've been busier, calls are up, and, you know, historically I budget consumables at about 250 transports a month, and I'm having to readjust fire. We're having a lot sicker people now, and, using a variety of equipment, but our guys are still getting out the door, doing a great job. Fleet-wise, a flurry of activity. Mike must have hidden hands. I don't know how he gets everything done. But, you know, we took delivery of the 2 new UTVs. One of them came with a track system. And what that is, it looks like tank tracks, to oversimplify it. And the thought behind that is we've got a snowcat that was built in 1864. And, it's not a reasonable piece of equipment for what we use it for, and that's for our IT department, mainly to access the towers in inclement weather. And, it needed to be replaced, and those things, but it also is infrequently used. So when looking at, you know, capital projections and replacing that apparatus for something that's used rarely related to how much it costs, it didn't make sense to me. So, some of our guys, being resourceful, found that you can get a tracks kit for a UTV. So now we have a UTV we can use for summer hikeouts, and in the winter, see a storm coming, we call up Mike, he puts the tracks on, and it's ready to go. And it'll be a fully suspended, four-wheel drive, climate-controlled ride for our RT folks to get up the hill and take care of our tower. So I'm hoping for a ton of snow this winter to check it out. We also took delivery of our command vehicle to replace the BC vehicle, which is 8 years old already. And this one's an F-250. It's got a little bit more weight-carrying capacity, and we configured the back a little bit differently with some storage space based on, over the years, the stuff we've added to the command vehicle to make them proficient. It's going to be a much more useful tool for them, and then we'll have a solid backup apparatus for when that thing's maintained. That should go into service in the next couple weeks. As well, the UTVs, we're just waiting on some brackets for the radios, and we had to have them here to determine how to do that. As you can see in the training report, we've done a bunch of stuff, and really it's reflective of our normal ongoing training. The big highlights for this month is our Skydio training. We brought the company out, and that's the new drone platform that we have, and we trained our pilots and did a few days of training, and got those folks operational, and I'm excited to start implementing and integrating that drone platform into our daily activities as needed. It's got some really great capabilities, and we're keeping our guys certified with DPS and air rescue stuff, and then we continue with our continuing education with all of our EMS stuff. Another thing Mike's been heavily focused on, Training Officer Duran, is getting everything lined up for the new hire orientation. You know, there's all the gear, there's all the training, and lining up the instructors, make sure we have the space and equipment available to get the new folks trained in their 3-week orientation academy, and everything is aligning well so far with that. And the other thing Mike's been charged with is, you know, I started looking at our employee population and all the go-getters that have run our extrication training and our ACLS and PALS training, our medical training, and a lot of our different mandates are getting a little long in the tooth, and they're not going to be here forever. And so we're really, you know, if you look at how many folks we've hired over the past 5 years, it's shocking. You know, you don't realize it as you're in the ether, and you take a step back and look. And Mike's really been working on doing some succession planning and developing how we're going to get new folks trained in those different disciplines so that we have a smooth transition as folks retire out. And because we don't want to be left with nobody holding the bag of tricks. And lastly, with Chris Ahern in ambulance billing and administrative support for the divisions I manage, this past month we hit a point where, you know, as you heard from the finance report, the billing is transitioned. There's a few loose ends to tie up that we anticipated, and they're not even bumps in the road. There's a pebble in the road, and we're tossing them aside, and we're going to be fixing those this month. And she started training with Training Officer Duran on a lot of the administrative functions within training, and then we've been looking at our CPR program, which has kind of been in a lull for the past year because of having outside training, but, transitioning a lot of that to her, the administrative piece of it, and evaluating how we can best deliver and support our partners. So we're an American Heart Association training center, and what that means is we do classes in-house, and in addition to that, you know, we affiliate with the Forest Service and the Park Service and BLM and the school districts, and so their instructors have a training site to affiliate with so that they can teach their employees and reduce costs for the school districts and the forest and all that. And it's something we've done for as long as I've been here, probably 30 years, and in my opinion, unless otherwise directed, I think it's important that our organizations support those tasks with our regional partners, because for the school district to burden, you know, having to be a training center or the forest or things like that, I think it's a good community partnership we have. And that's the big highlights for the month, and end of report. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
When you're doing this, any future training or anything involving the, what do you call it,
Skydio.
Skydio, which is the drone systems.
Mm-hmm.
I find the whole subject matter fascinating, and it has capacity way beyond what we all think of a little camera drone is, and I would love to learn more about that. And
how much time do you have available? Because I've got a guy that will tell you more.
They got to do practice and training.
Absolutely, and may I suggest, instead of trying to snag one of our trainings, we've got a bunch of great pilots. And how about I reach out to you and find out your availability, and when one of those guys on shift, they can come by the station and do a demo.
That would be fun. I appreciate it.
Super. Any other questions for Chief Azulis? Great job. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Chief?
Thank you, Chief Azulis. So to finish off the fire chief's report, strategic plan, we shared that with the board, the completed plan, and we're each individual action items now. The owners of those are developing tasks to walk those down, and we've Carrie's begun the process of loading that all into our video format so that we can track it. So, you know, it's always a continuous dynamic plan, but it is moving forward, and I think there's some really great content to it, and we're really making that effort to keep it functional. Station 4 construction, still in a bit of a holding pattern. The next really thing would be implementing a phase 1 feasibility study, which we have all lined up and the scope of work's defined. Just still kind of holding and watching the environment in terms of materials and construction costs. So we don't want to rush. We want to let the industry kind of calm a bit before we rush in and start making some high dollar commitments, which we will. And we will ultimately get that station built. You can see we did not have any purchase orders between 10,000 and 50,000. And then also see our social media reach, our numbers there. Of course, when we have active fires and events, usually that the likes and the reach and engagement increase. So it's kind of a good sign if the environment's calm. And then please take the time to look at the correspondence and the thank you letters. Again, I think for one of our citizens or one of our visitors to take the moment to highlight how we impacted them for the good. I think that's always good. Especially like, let's see, I want to get his name right. You'll look at the letter from Dr. Kennard Bork, and I like how he said maybe you can use the money for hot fudge sundaes. I like that. Kind of highlighted that. We'll make sure that it's used for the good of the district. But the hot fudge sundae idea, I think he was right in line with probably what I think would be good for the district. But we'll see. The powers that be look at that. But no, again, those are great letters. You can see on the donations, Gwen Griffin donated $450. Dr. Ken Bork there, $250. Marion Dominic Petrucci, $471. And just great people, great support. It's so appreciated that people take that time, you know, and we've accomplished some pretty neat things with these donations. And, you know, when we take the smaller donations and put them together, then we kind of as staff, get a good direction, how it can benefit the entire district. You know, the one big case in point is how when we went to the upgraded barbecues, to all 5 stations, and that really was very impactful for our crews and how they cook and, you know, keeping us safe out there. I remember when I came on the job, of course not in this fire district, but, one of the most dangerous things I did that first couple months was light one of the barbecues at one of the stations. And they knew it, everyone would stand back waiting for my hair to be burned off, and I caught on really quick, got some PPE, stayed low, and safely negotiated the lie in that barbecue. But, hey, the days of that are gone here at Sedona Fire District. There's no danger in turning on your barbecue, so we can effectively cook. But again, we get that kind of support. It's widespread support, so it's incredibly appreciated. We like to keep that correspondence here in the packet for the public, and also just highlight those donations. So that would complete the chief's report, unless there's any questions.
I have.
Go ahead.
Somewhere in the packet this time was, Station 4, received new flooring. What was the flooring about? Just curious.
Right, so we're going through and some of the Station 4, like the exterior stairwell on the one side had some damage, so we waited for a while to kind of see how the construction project would line up, but we moved forward with that, kind of a safety concern to have that repaired. It was the same thing with updating the floors. We're trying to go to floors and get away from carpet. The carpet tends to, you can bring contaminants on your boots in, so the trend is, you know, if we can update stations and get away from carpet, the floors are easier to keep clean. So it's just normal maintenance over time that we're upgrading, to keep it to the minimum level there while we get the big project done downstream.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if it was something more in-depth, because I have taken a tour of Station 4, and Station 4 is very old and needs a lot of help, so I wasn't sure how intense that flooring got.
Yeah, it's our normal maintenance and upkeep.
Chief, along those same lines, did we finish the project with 3s with their little mini splits throughout the upstairs? And did we also finish all the patio heater installs now that we're heading towards the winter part?
Yep, yeah, I believe all the patio installs and the heaters are complete, and I believe all the thermostat and split project there at 3 is complete.
Okay.
The big project going on right now here is at 1, where on the administrative side, for many years, as that's been split up, there's been a lot of challenges. Like, you could be in my office in a down jacket, just to keep warm, go downstairs, and it's like, uh-oh, you gotta shed everything, you know,
It's warm.
to keep, to cool off. So, that's a pretty sized project that we've already engaged the vendor and have our contract, and they've already started to do the planning on that. So that's gonna take some time. I don't know how you can remember how long, but it's a number of months, but it's gonna be a great project really to write the air handling over on the admin side. And I think, hopefully it'll improve our utility bill and control, right, more efficient. That's part of it, but it's a project that's probably been coming for 5 or 6 years, so we're there.
We'll get a handle on it,
Mm-hmm.
sooner or later. Okay, super, thank you. Any other questions for the chief? None? Okay, moving on to the next board, agenda item, board member items. Number 1 is the annual review of the Sedona Fire District Fire Board Handbook. This is a handbook that each one of us has. The month of August is where we have an opportunity to review that manual. If we identify any policy or procedure that needs to be updated, we do so, turn it in to Carrie for the September meeting. Is that correct, Carrie?
Yes.
So by next meeting, we'll ensure that it's all, whatever we find that needs to be updated, is updated, or at least show what needs to be updated to Carrie, and she'll get it all done and move on from there. So make sure that next meeting we have it on there. Does that mean it's gonna be an agendized item for,
Yes, that way you can review any of the changes and just make sure that, you know,
Okay.
they're all good.
I don't know if that would constitute an executive session to discuss it.
Not unless you have legal questions, I just wanna let you know, I've gone through and redlined all of my changes, I'll just send them to you. You can integrate them into whatever else you see.
Okay, so you have gone through it then? Okay, good. Okay. And then the last item on the, agenda is, board members' fire district-related activities since our last board meeting. And this is where we get an opportunity to, express what we've done with in conjunction with the fire district to the public, here at the meeting. And so with that said, I'll go ahead and start with, Al. You wanna jump in there?
I did get myself a digital copy of the, annual report, which I put on my Facebook and moved it around in some other posts to try to get the general public to investigate. This is a wonderful document that really tells a story, and, I'm hoping a lot of people did take the opportunity to read it. I do have friends all the way back in Cincinnati where I went to school, and it's neat to see them open those things up. Also, I'm involved with the Sedona Wine Fest, and I'm responsible for the logistics of all the operation of the event, and it is quite complex with a lot of tents, so we'll be working with your department, Davis. But we have a new administrator that we've hired to run the Wine Fest, and I hope that they don't miss whatever interactions with the fire district we're supposed to have to make sure what we're doing is up to code.
I saw the, TUP, the temporary use permit from the city, I don't know, it was a week or 2 weeks ago, and made my comments, so I'm sure that they've got all.
Yeah,
all
we
the
have a meeting on Friday, and I'll follow through. I do all the documents, you know, making sure we do this massive 14,000 square foot tent, plus we're doing a variety of other small tents, and I take care of the electricity that we do for whatever, so it's, I love logistics, so it's a lot of fun to do it.
Excellent.
Perfect. Thanks, Al. Gene?
Well, I've been bad.
Okay.
I've been bad, and so I really haven't done a whole lot. However, I have to thank Carrie, because I'm reading right here, scheduling one-on-one with the chief, which I would often forget to do. I'm so busy filling in all the my driveway is evolving into a new Grand Canyon. So that's taken much of my time, and so, but I have to thank Carrie. Her recommendation is for us to host a regular meeting with the fire chief, and I have it on my calendar, and I promise you, sir, I'll be there.
No, I did like that. That was, yeah.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Some discipline in me.
Janet?
No fire business, just volunteering elsewhere.
Okay, super. And, to our newest member, Helen, I don't know that you've had.
I arrived.
You arrived.
That's my fire business.
There you go. Well,
Not as much as
again,
you
welcome
like.
aboard.
Thank
We're
you.
glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
As far as, my involvement this month, I did have, the pleasure of talking with Helen and helping her with some items that were foreign to her to bring them back into perspective. Also periodic, discussions with the chief on various issues. It seems like it's at least once or twice a week, every week on something, hey, educate me on this, educate me on that. By the same token, I've had an opportunity to talk to Bill about various contracts or whatever's going on throughout the district. So there is some involvement, almost daily. But, it's always fun to working with the staff that you have, because everybody has an answer sooner than later, before, for any question that I may have. But with that said, we just continue to move forward and, look forward to our next meeting. And, unless there is anything else from the board or staff, that concludes our meeting for tonight. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. All right. And I got some checks to sign.